evening. My name is Alessandra Moctezuma and I'm the gallery director here at San Diego Mesa College. Welcome and thank you so much for joining us tonight. We're very excited about this exhibition, Domestic Disobedience, and also about having the chance to talk with the artist and with the curator of the exhibition. First of all, I just want to give you a little bit of a story about how this came about. Besides running the art gallery, I'm also a professor of museum studies here at Mesa. And a few years ago, I met a wonderful student, Nurvia Crisol Guerra, who was just making a transition from being in biology and chemistry onto the arts. And she came to my class with enthusiasm, with great ideas, very personable, definitely a team player and a leader, and I was just so happy and to have her in my class. After she finished the one-year program, she actually went on to do an internship at Sushi Performance and Visual Arts Space, and she started curating exhibits for them. And she applied to graduate school. She had this idea, which was a theoretical concept for an exhibition of Latina artists, and I got a chance to take a peek at that idea because I was recommending her, writing a letter for her for the graduate school. And when I saw her concept, I just thought that it would be a great exhibition. And so we started talking about it, and I said, well, why don't we make this happen? And why don't we make this exhibition here at San Diego Mesa College? So this is just an example of, a lot of people have great ideas, but it's the effort to make them into reality that is really the crucial thing. And so this is an example of that. And she researched different artists. She wanted to make connections, and we looked through the artists and invited them. But she's just done a fabulous job. She's done 2 trips to San Francisco, several trips to Los Angeles, and I just think we have to give her a big round of applause for all her. And because she's the curator, I will let her take the lead in really introducing the artist and talking in more detail about her idea for this exhibition. But I would like to also thank my museum studies students and my museum studies, actually my gallery staff here. Because our gallery is a teaching laboratory, so everything that you see there, it was hung and it was done by students working with us, and so it's a wonderful learning opportunity for them. So before we go on introduce Nurvia and the artist, I just wanted to take a moment. Yesterday we did a special preview tour of this exhibition for a wonderful Chicana scholar and a professor here at Mesa College. Her name is Rita Sanchez, and she's sitting right there. And this was for her class, La Chicana. And of course, this exhibit is just perfect because it's about women and Chicanas and Latinas. But the thing is that yesterday she told us that this was gonna be her last day teaching that class because she's ready to retire. And so I can't believe that. I think she might come back. But I wanted to just I have something for Rita, and it's actually it's a painting by Nurvia. And it's a painting that I bought when we had a fundraiser for Betita Martinez, who was a leading civil rights activist. And she wrote a book called De Colores Means All of Us, which was about the civil rights struggle for Chicanos, but also for all different groups. Nurvia made this especially for Betita, and I purchased it, and now I would like to give this to Rita, just to thank her for all of the things that she has done for us, and because she has inspired so many of us, and just, being a wonderful mentor. So if you want to come up here, go ahead and take I will just take one moment for it.
She made me cry.
Thank you so much.
So hello and thank you everybody for being here. First, I'm going to start with thank yous, and the first thank you that I have to give is to Alessandra. Alessandra has not only been an instructor, but also a supporter and a mentor. And her strength and energy that she puts into her classroom and into her friendships really are exemplified in this exhibit also, because if it wasn't for her support and her belief in that I could get this done in a very short period of time, it wouldn't have happened. But in that, Pat Vine and all the students and all the staff that works with the Mesa College, Kevin Cow, everybody has been incredible to make this happen in an extremely short period of time. And also, of course, all the participating artists, thank you so much for your generosity, for all the love and support and all the great emails along the way and the dialogue. So in that, I hope to share that conversation with you all and that dialogue that I've been having with them individually, but also have it here. And I think that that's one of the most important parts of having an exhibition, that we have conversation and dialogue with the community. So I'm really thankful that not only students are here, but also community members and faculty from other schools, and I really hope that you enjoy this discussion. First of all, I think we all know that when it comes to really complicated subjects like feminism and culture and sexism, and it's really necessary to have a whole community of artists to be able to articulate what in a unifying voice. The Latina experience has been a theme and interest for me for obvious reasons, that I am the daughter of Mexican immigrants and raised in the United States. And as an artist, curating is yet another form for me able to express my concerns, the challenges of a way to challenge my ideology, and a way to resolve the problems that I confront. Domestic Disobedience was inspired by the essay of Amalia Mesa-Barnes, Domesticana, The Sensibility of Chicana Rascuachen. In doing this exhibit, I have realized that many artists have come across this essay and have really been touched, moved, and also inspired by this essay. So that was very gratifying, and also made it a unifying force for this exhibit. As an independent, and more recently as a married woman, this essay resonated with my own desire to define femininity. The conflicts arise when I realized that the feminist movement did not create an equal playing field for all of us, and also that the Chicano movement did not fully challenge all the gender roles that are found in the home. Women still play the primary role in the domestic sphere to take care of human decor, personal glamorization, the wellness of the family and self, and also child rearing. So feminism to me is fluid, and this essay reminded me that it is necessary for me and for us to redefine the feminine space. So those are the four topics that I was really trying to use as a unifying theme. The domestic space is, for this exhibit, is defined by the child rearing, home decor, personal glamorization, and the wellness of the self. So you probably saw examples of that, but we'll dive into the questions in order to have the artist kind of express their own thoughts on it. Finally, the two other things that I felt were really important for this exhibit, for it to be a success, was to have artists that are intergenerational, artists that were involved in the Chicano movement, in the civil rights movement, and also emerging artists that are here and have been able to benefit from that movement and from that struggle. The other aspect that was extremely important for me, especially being that we're on a campus, is that the exhibit was multidisciplinary, that we had examples of how artists are using new media, video, are using pastel drawing, sculpture, and painting in order to express these ideas. And hopefully the students could really dive into these processes and see that there's no limitation to these mediums. Last night I received an email from Amalia Mesa-Barnes, and she sent this letter to us, and I would like to, she asked for it to be shared with all of you. So, dear comadres, I am sad that I cannot be there with you tonight, but truly touched to have a part in the ongoing Chicana cultural project. Our work spans generations, and the focus of Domesticana is now a contemporary act of cultural affirmation and feminist defiance. We are often caught in the tension between our domestic heritage and the liberation we must gain as activist women artists. I am proud to be connected to the new Chicana generation and the critical practices of image making that we share. Our legacy of the domestic, even when fraught with tradition, is also the place of disruption, challenge, meaning, and solidarity. Mil gracias, Amalia Mesa-Barnes. So that has been one of the points in this process that has been extremely humbling to me, to be able to have a dialogue with someone like Amalia that has written so many great pieces for our art-making culture, but also for our society. So thank you to Amalia, and sorry that she's not here. But I also wanted to introduce each one of the artists, and for some reason those are missing. But first of all, we have Sonia Romero. Sonia Romero is a LA native artist, and her work, she does paper cut, printmaking, painting, and really is an amazing multidisciplinary artist that is challenging even herself, and her work really exemplifies the whole idea of the feminine space being redefined first from within. So, Sonia Romero. Carolyn Castano is visiting us from Los Angeles, where she has made her existence fun and joyful via Colombia. And one of the dialogues that I've had with Carolyn is the whole ritual of the beauty, and her work focuses on that, but also has a very humorous way to approach how skewed our ideas of feminists and feminism in Latin America. So, Carolyn Castano. Angelica Muro is visiting us from San Jose, and Angelica, like myself, she is a daughter of immigrant parents and grew up in the United States, definitely in a very bicultural household. And there's a lot of things that from sharing that we definitely feel in common. Her work is really important to this exhibit because, especially for it being in the eyes of many youth, that it confronts you about how women are being portrayed in the media, and the importance to acknowledge that these images are influencing the way that we shape ourselves. So thank you, Angelica, for being here. Wow, I'm me to do this off the... and then finally we have Vivianna Paredes, and she's visiting from San Francisco. And Vivianna has definitely an intoxicating energy to her that I think is but I think it really comes from that she started speaking about from her grandmother being a curandera, and I think that her work is just such a beautiful marriage between natural materials, man-made materials, but also cultural memory. So thank you, Vivianna, for being here. Okay, we'll take question number 2. Yeah.
How do you approach procreation and creation?
Thank you.
You want me to answer that? Wow. Okay. I don't. I mean, I think loosely, if you start talking about creation, I mean, we all sort of engage in that. But I'm not at the point right now where my contribution in terms of my gender have embraced motherhood. And so when I think of procreation, a lot of times I think parenthood and I think motherhood, and that's just not where I am right now. And so in some ways, I think when you're asking about these resisting of roles, for me that was the first thing that came up when you asked Vivianna that in terms of the way that my work resists that. And it doesn't resist it intentionally. I just feel that for me, autonomy has always been a really big thing, right? And so it's not that I don't think that motherhood is a beautiful thing. I really do, and I hope that someday that happens for me. But I feel that a lot of people, sort of because I'm at a certain age, that they really impose that on me. And so, I don't know.
Anybody else? You are.
That's a heavy question.
It is. It's a heavy question.
I guess I feel that as an artist, when we're always creating, and as when I was a younger artist, all the way until now, or I'm thinking about my artwork, my paintings, my videos, performances as almost like my babies in a way, and but definitely I think was it procreation that you said? Okay. I think that's also a creative act, but it's obviously one that when you're dealing with another human being, and also the collaborator with procreation. The ingredients, right? I think as far as like feminism, it's obviously there was questions of, I mean, before, like, women were expected to get married, were expected to have children, and something like my grandmother would say, oh, it was considered a sin to say no to your husband, or to reject him for a night, and that's how you ended up with 14 kids. And of course now it's very different. No. But I mean, I think as feminism has matured, and women, obviously we want to have careers, we want to live life, travel, go crazy, but then it's like, oh, the call of nature for some does come around. It's like, oh, you still want to do that. So I think you can have it all, but maybe not at the same time, and it's also about being realistic and choosing, I don't know. It's a hard one.
I want to say, yeah?
I think I do have a daughter. It's an amazing challenge, and it's a great challenge, I think, to try to have and address some of the things that young women go through now. But one of the things I wanted to say, which I thought was really interesting when I was in school, is we adopted, and My daughter was born the last year I was in art school, and the reaction from women professors really stunned me, because basically they looked at me like, well, you're done. You're never going to do anything now. And you're just, and I know it's a challenge. It's just to you, anyone who's a mother, even fathers, you know how hard it is to raise children. It's a 7-day, 24-hour job. But it's interesting because raising my daughter to be strong and to believe in herself and never to get discouraged by people telling you no. And that's like for me, my constant thing with her is that you can do anything. We live here. We don't live in Pakistan. We don't have the same issues that, other young women have, of course, men too, but, there's a lot of places in the world to this day that girls can't even go to school. So, these are things that I'm constantly, talking to her, and to me, it's my art making is part of that thing of that showing her that even being an older woman, being a mother, that I can still go into my studio, I can still weld if I need to, or chop a tree down if I want to use that, and it doesn't intimidate me, and it should never intimidate any woman. Doesn't matter what size you are, you can do it. And if it's too big, you just get somebody else to help you too.
Don't resist.
How does your work speak about contemporary female consciousness?
Sonia?
Okay, I guess I'll answer something. My work is the pieces in the show that are, you might have seen, the 3 trees with a woman emerging, they're paper cut and painting. And these pieces in particular are very personal, about my own journey of awakening. Probably the most personal work I've ever made in my entire life. So I hope that that you were able to get something from them as well. Because I'm being so truthful and so vulnerable with my feelings here, I think they would represent the consciousness of other women and other females, perhaps my age, around. Because I'm trying to talk about the self-made cage that I've made for myself. It's kind of a love story. Like the first tree, it's called Deep Heart Yearning, and it's like some sort of yearning that I've always felt for love that I couldn't answer. Just didn't know like what it was, or it was like some sort of call. And then the second tree, she's emerging, but she's very uncertain. She's not really. It's kind of scary. It's like you want to release the cage, but you don't know what's out there. And then like the third tree is she's finally out of the tree. She's released, and it's ecstatic. And I would hope it would be that way, but I'm not sure because I feel like I haven't gotten there yet. So this is a very personal story. If anyone would like to talk to me about it later, I'd love to hear your thoughts. But hopefully that represents something about women today.
In Spanish, esta se va a quedar para vestir santos, which means like this woman is gonna be to dress saints. Another one is, ya sabes cocinar tamales, estás lista para casarte. So you know how to make tamales, you're ready to get married. So how have these cultural sayings or dichos inspired your art making? Virgin at the table or in bed. So she uses that. Does anybody want to speak about that, please?
I think that comes up a lot with a lot of other Latinas too, working in that medium, that whole, the duality, that we're constantly as Latinas, that we're supposed to be good girls, but fun. It's like, so, it's when you grow up Catholic, which many of us are raised Catholic or with religion, there's such a, how do you be a good girl and still be able to have fun? And, or even other things, not even just fun, but the kind of work, like women, professional women, I'm sure they face that all the time. How do you be a good wife and be a professional and do your job? But, I don't really have a lot of dichos that have worked in my work, but I mean, we hear them all the time, and, they're very strong, I think. Your work, huh?
Yeah, well, I think definitely the dichos are sayings, growing up from my grandmother, my mom, with all of those kind of sayings. But I think in my video piece, the female report, the reporte femenil, a lot. It's a stringing along of thoughts, non sequiturs, and related ideas. A lot of them springing from these kind of sayings, but a lot of the sayings are either sayings that you would hear in popular culture, but also sayings that maybe my mom would say, that I grew up, with her and her friends, like, speaking of glamorization, like, make sure to wear, Lancome, don't, fight the wrinkles, mija, and look at me, my skin is really great because I use Princess Borghese, I made a sale at Macy's, tenemos que ir, I have a coupon, and so this stuff, and growing up with these kind of, this brainwashing, so I had surgery, this is a personal moment, but I think it relates because it was kind of the catalyst for me writing that piece. Is I had fibroid surgery. It's very feminine, right? So I laid up in bed watching Netflix, which was a really great vacation. And I started to write this piece, and so thinking about these things from my mom, but also watching television, kind of the news programming you see on Telemundo, like Al Rojo Vivo, which is one of these kind of yellow journalism TV shows with hypersexualized female fembots from Miami reporting the news, and like, hay un desastre en Guatemala, and they're like, and thinking about I grew up in the U.S., and so thinking about what is the role of feminism. I mean, they had feminists down there, right? And who are they, and where did they come from? And so thinking about the women that I did know about and were inspired, like the president of Chile or Gabriela Mistral. And so I started to research them more and thinking about their relationship to men, and Che, and Fidel. There's all these women that were supporting them and actually helping them along in this, revolution, but of course we don't hear about them. So, rumors, gossip, dichos.
I'll move all the way over here. Does anybody have a question that is burning inside of them that they want to add to the mix here and not be prompt? Yes, please.
One of the things, since I grew up in the 50s and 60s, now when I hear what's going on with a lot of the candidates saying a lot of things, I think that young people need to really realize how hard it was when I grew up. Birth control wasn't even talked about. Abortion was going to Tijuana. And I would like to just get out, young people better get out and vote, because we could lose things.
So how do we as women, as Latinas, protect our bodies, and maybe how that has come out in your work of what the media is telling us of what our bodies. Yes. Get a gun. Get a gun.
I think that I mean, the reason for me, and I'm sure for a lot of us up here, the reason that I even make work at all and talk about feminist issue is because I'm a woman and I'm very aware of gender roles that are imposed on me. And so I feel that a lot of my women students and a lot of my male students still play into those stereotypes and those gender roles that are imposed on them. And so that leads a lot into their own exploitation. And so I feel that in order for them to really be empowered, we need to look beyond those media expectations and those societal expectations. And so packing heat isn't, about carrying a weapon. I mean, it's definitely about equalization and using the gun as an equalizer. And so when I was growing up, a lot of media images that I was seeing in the Mexican cinema, which were movies that I would see, I have a younger brother, he's about a year and a half younger than me, and he would get to choose the movies that we would go see, and so we would go see like Rambo and Terminator and I saw all the Chuck Norris movies and Charles Bronson and Death Wish and all of them. And so I grew up with all these really violent movies where the man was always the one who was empowered, and if you had a strong female figure in the film, she was always packing heat, always scantily clad, but somehow, always giving way to the man. Who he was always going to be more empowered than she was. And so I felt that those images, although they were being presented to us as female empowerment, they paradoxically played into a long-standing history of sexism and misogyny. And that's something I have a problem with. And it wasn't until later that I was able to really articulate this that I realized how much these images were affecting me, because really they were representations of womanhood. And so just like, those images affected me just as much as Daisy Duke or Sarah Connor or Wonder Woman, So.
Sonia, do you mind talking a little bit about that too? Because I know that in the discussion we had, we talked about how Eyes Wide Open, that piece has to do more about how women react to society than how society is kind of imposing their view on them. It's more from within outward.
She's referring to the piece with Many Eyes. Well, my first impulse to create that piece was I wanted to sort of talk about like how there's many sensors on the bodies, like not just the eyes in your head, but it was like, but eyes are, a kind of sensor, so I decided to put them all over the body. And I think when Vivianna was at my studio, we started this discussion on how there's nobody particularly telling me I can't do anything. I feel like I have a pretty liberated life, but somehow these ideas are still in my head anyways. They've just been implanted through all the fairy tales, all the media, all the things, all that I've picked up from our society. So I guess these constricting ideas about my own liberation can come from within without me even realizing.
Anybody else? Oh, we have a question.
So, keeping in the theme with the body, I noticed that most of you do use your own bodies in your work, and if you can talk about why that's important for you to use as a medium.
I really think that, a lot of what Sonia just said really is talking about the reason why we use our own bodies, because even though we feel like we're independent and we're autonomous and there's so many things that we can go out into the world and do, that somehow, because we've been brainwashed so much, that we withhold, right? And that we don't do a lot of things that perhaps we should be doing because of that. And so, for me personally, using myself in the portraits is a way. It's a way of liberating. It is, and a way of not subjecting myself to all those things that have been self-imposed on me. right? And it's not an easy thing for me. I mean, Sonia, is it an easy thing for you to use your? No, it's not. And I don't want anyone here to think that we do that freely. It's a really difficult thing for us to do, and we really have to negotiate. And I know that I had a long conversation with Nurvia in my studio about even showing those images, right? I've shown them once before, and I'm really careful because I don't want them to play or pander to the stereotype. I don't want people to go and see, oh, look at a sexy girl with a gun. Right? No, I want them to understand that it's really speaking out about the equalizer and using the gun as, it's a feminist issue. It is. And so it's definitely not easy for me, but that's why I do it.
And for me, like I've found that doing these pieces, like your own body can become like this great self-teaching tool. Like by exploring my body through these pieces, I'm learning so much about the world and myself and opening up. So it's actually a great entry point into learning.
Thank you for that question.
Well, actually, I was reading Amalia Mesa-Barnes' essay Domesticana, and she talks about play as being one of the strategies to subvert, patriarchy or through play. And in relation to some of my video pieces, it's definitely a way of taking on this other role or playing dress up and becoming this other person, where if I was just regular Carolyn is shy and introverted and Catholic and very aware of what self-imposed cages or ideas about myself that also, like Sonia said, like nobody told me, I just imagined them and it's become my own framework. Whereas if I'm playing and become these other people, like an Italian starlet or a Telemundo newscaster, then I can become like the person of my dreams and become be transformed in a way. So I think it's I'm readily available and easy. I mean, it's free. I meant free. I don't have to pay myself.
Well, I think it's still in the body. Vivianna, you use your body in a very different way. There's a physicality to your art making that many times, people might say that's not a woman's medium. So can you talk about that and that?
Yeah, I was kind of just thinking, going, I don't use my body, but I do use my body, but it comes out in a different way. And I think as a gay woman, I've always been frustrated with all the things that I wanted to do and learn how to do. I was always told, especially when I was younger, oh, you can't do that. I mean, I remember wanting to do blacksmithing when I was in high school. I don't know why I got it in my head to do blacksmithing, but I wanted to do it. And I was just quickly told, no, you cannot do that. I went to inner city school. I didn't do well in school, and I was always looking for trades jobs because I figured I needed to learn how to take care of myself. And so I always was drawn to these non-traditional occupations and always had the door slammed on my face. And it wasn't until I was in my 40s that I went back to college, graduated, at 47 from college. And when I finally got there, I finally had the guts to say, you know what, just move out of my fucking way. I'm going to learn this. Take the And so it's been interesting in the challenge because I have actually, I use materials that are very non-traditional in many ways. So like the first piece you see in there is bronze, and I did all that myself. And it was fun. I find it very liberating, and it makes me feel very strong. And not in I'm butch, it just makes me feel strong. I feel in my body when I'm doing it. And all the work I do really is a hands-on. I cut my own stuff down. I harvest materials. I blow glass. I cast glass. I do things that are been very non-traditional. And oftentimes, men, it's really a challenge to get. And I'm not trying to put any guys down, but it's women are always put in this situation where, well, you don't really want to do that. You know, let me help you. I mean, even to this day now, as an older woman, I'm always constantly, you know, I can, you know, let me help you thing. I'm like, no, I can lift this myself. And so I do a lot of my work. I do purposely make so I can either lift it myself, put it together myself, try to be very independent about how I approach work, and I guess in that way I use my body.
Questions? We're going back to the green card.
And I don't know if that was in your questions, but one of the things that Amalia Mesa-Barnes talks about in her essay is about the idea of rascuache or rascuachismo, and that aesthetic that for people who are not familiar with the word, it comes from, you know, looking at kind of popular culture and also the kind of exuberance, and I think also it's a little bit of a Baroque quality, but it's all coming from, in a sense, from our popular culture and our maybe home altars or the yards and the ways that they're decorated. And I was just wondering if that rascuache aesthetic plays any role in your work, or and if not, you know, what do you think about it? So.
You know, I started thinking about that myself because I thought, well, where does my work fit in it? And I thought, well, the molcajete is really the rascuache. I mean, you know, it's just a tool we all have. I don't think anybody would have thought of that as fine art, you know. And when I made it into bronze, I declared it as a fine art object. I used a lot of, I was saying my grandmother was a curandera, and taught me a lot of things about traditional medicinal plants. Again, rascuache, because when we go to the markets, you know, the mercados in our neighborhoods, that's what you have, you know, a bunch of herbs and what have you. I use that in my work, and I didn't understand what that meant. I just was playing with it for the longest time, and now I get that it's called ethnobotany. So, you know, our rascuache, there's you know, it's our stuff. It's our everyday things, but I guess that's what makes it rascuache, and it's still,
It's used as a survival.
right, and it's the materials that I'm familiar with, it's what I'm used to. I can harvest these things myself. They're not expensive, you know, pretty much, so, you know, it's kind of fun to take something like that and take the cinnamon sticks and put it in the sculpture, and, you know, it takes it to a different level. But, you know, it's the cinnamon sticks, we grew up with that, so it's very common and very cultural signifier.
Carolyn?
I think of rascuache, or this idea of making do, or transfiguration of the objects, like something cheap or poor or not considered high art, and it's transferred and elevated to this higher, you know, realm of art, right? And in my work, especially in my paintings, I use materials that are not considered high art, like glitter or flocking, rhinestones, materials that are like from usually traditionally considered craft, which equals the feminine world, or like abuelitas, or, you know, homemaker, but also materials that now, you know, more contemporaneously are used to equal like a rich, you know, faux riche, or like this luxe quality. But so they have this double read where you see them and they're like, ooh, it's shiny, and, you know, it's Paris Hilton, but then when you look a little closer, it's kind of degraded, and it's not. It's like, you know, kind of tacky and poor. So I'm interested in those materials, and they're so shiny.
I think we're going to have 2 more questions, and then we'll thank our panelists. So, any more pressing questions? Yes.
It's interesting how you point out that, you know, the aggressiveness that you're showing within your art is for feminism. But when I walked in there, automatically gave me, since it was a Chicana art display, gave me the aggression, not only in feminism, but the aggression of Chicanos in struggle and different stages that Chicanos have been through. So when I see, the gun, and then I don't know, is that we have another one with the ski mask?
No, that's a different artist.
That's a different artist. Well, there's a resemblance there, and the same attitude within the art is expressed of the movement that's going on between, Latinos and society in the past and society now. So it was interesting, like, a chola or not a chola? It was an interesting, but then you explained that it's a feminist, aggressiveness that you're exposing, but at the same time it exposes another aggressiveness of your culture.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you. Actually, I was having a conversation with someone actually with Amalia Mesa-Barnes. Yeah, talking about how traditionally a lot of Latinas are sort of known as being aggressive, right? Sort of aggressive in nature, or that we fight back a lot, or that... What was that? Hociconas. There you go. That we're mouthing off, or that, we're just not going to put up with specific things, but I also think that we're known for being submissive as well. And so for me, although I feel that because I was raised with that aggressive nature, that absolutely it definitely has to do with that. And I appreciate that when you walked in and you saw the images, that you automatically thought about that, because I think that part of it is that I don't have complete ownership over the work anymore when it hits a gallery or when other people are seeing it, right? And so that you can then extract what you're taking from it, to me, is absolutely fantastic, right? Because it just adds another layer to it, yeah. And so initially it was about representations of women, violent representations of women, and the gun as an equalizer, right? And how then that translates to the way that a man would see a woman, right? But in fact, it is definitely about both, so thank you for that.
Oh, we have a question.
I love that the name of the show is Domestic Disobedience. So talk to us about the disobedience, and that suggests a bit of rebellion. So how did you approach the rebellion in your work, and did you find it liberating?
Probably the fact that we're all working artists is right there. We're doing what we're not supposed to be doing. We certainly, I'm sure none of you, I'm assuming, we're not encouraged to be artists. So I think they're right there. Just being the fact that we're professional working artists is...
It's an act of defiance.
It's an act of defiance.
I think in the disobedience also, a lot of it has to do with resistance, and every artist is resisting a stereotype of what a woman is supposed to be doing in the domestic space. So the resistance aspect is also very much put into that title.
In relation to Amalia Mesa-Barnes' essay about the role of the Chicana or Latina feminists, right? If we're feminists, but also we want all the things that all the regular feminists want. Well, but she talks about all the different obligations, right? Like to be, lovers, to be wives, to be artists, to be creators, to be professional. And then there's the family obligations, right? And so how to wear all these many hats, and I think the disobedience is it's like the disobedience, but also an embrace. Like, well, I still have to take care of my parents, but I'm also going to travel the world. Many things.
Yes.
So do you, as artists, do you feel that you have to defend the fact that you are artists because you are Latinas and because you are these creators? Do you find yourself in a situation where people think of you as unusual?
Oh, yeah.
Whoa.
Oh, yeah.
I think especially here in this country, we don't embrace artists very much. If you go to Mexico and you say you're an artist, people almost bow to you. I mean, they're like, they love the artist. Here, I mean, I commonly will get asked, oh, what do you really do? Do you make money? How much money do you make? And, you know, and all these questions that define success in our society, and it has nothing to do with being an artist. There's a big disconnect. And I know that's why I didn't go to, there was another reason why I didn't go to school so early. I was afraid to embrace being an artist because my family were migrants too. You don't come and leave a country, come here to have a better life and have a kid be an artist. I mean, you just don't do that.
So that's another defiance.
Right? Yes.
I'd like to share my experience, which is a little more positive. I'm a third-generation artist on my mother's side and a second-generation artist on my father's side. And I've always been encouraged to be an artist, and both sides of my family have been in the U.S. for many generations. But for me, like, art has always been my life. I've been surrounded by artists, and I feel pretty good about it, so. I have a different experience.
Any other questions? And we'll do one more question. And I think that we have a good conversation in there. Yes, Alessandra?
I just wanted you to talk a little bit about the materials that you choose to use in your work, because I think I have quite a few students here who are art majors, and you know, you have an idea, but then you know, what is the best way to make it happen? And I know some of you are using very interesting materials, or are using these materials in different ways. I'm thinking, I mean, many of you, but just because I come out of printmaking, I'm thinking of Sonia's with the cutouts and kind of the delicacy of that. So, do you want to talk a little bit about your journey in terms of exploration of materials and what you would tell young artists as they're working those ideas out?
Well, the best thing that's come of all my years of study in art school and all of my experiences, that finally now, whenever I have an idea, I have all the skills I need to actually make it come out of me. Like, this is amazing, because, you know, for many years I had to learn how to draw, I had to learn how to cut linoleum, paint. I studied all of those things. I was a printmaking major in college, and so now when I have an idea, I just reach into all of my skills and I choose the best technique for that idea. So for these pieces here today, paper cut for me is very fast and immediate. I'm able to cut it very easily with a knife. Unlike linoleum, which is very, you have a lot of struggle because it's so hard to cut through our wood. Paper is like butter. So when I have an idea I want to get out fast, I go to paper. And when I want to denote flesh, I go to paint. So I'm just so happy that I'm finally at this point in my life.
Well, I guess, I mean, I would say it's the same, right? I think kind of growing up as finding myself as an artist and thinking that art for me was painting and drawing. That was what being an artist was, and that's what I studied in undergrad. And then in grad school, I was a painting major, and I started to explore video and film. And after graduate school, I focused mostly on painting because, again, like this idea that, oh, I'm a painter. I think it's really about exploring different materials and letting the materials come to you and being open to other developments. More recently, I've gotten really involved with silk screening, and that's taking my work and my ideas in this whole other direction. Like, oh, I can do T-shirts, I can make dresses, I can make wallpaper. And so it's really opening up the possibilities for my practice, and I just think it's about being open to what the materials are for your ideas and not being stuck in one thing, because we live in 2012 and there can be so many different permutations.
Yeah, I completely agree with Carolyn. You can't be limited by your by the material. You can't. If you think video would be the best thing for your project, then you work with video. And I think maybe that's a graduate school thing, because you were saying that that's sort of when you started to experiment. And as an undergrad, I was a staunch photographer, like analog in the darkroom. And then when I went to grad school, I really started experimenting with digital media and video, and was doing mixed media photography and painting and drawing. And so that opens up a whole new world to you. And so I just, I just go for any medium that I think. I'm really excited to start doing sculpture, so maybe I'll go visit you, Eva.
Yeah, I don't, although I've dabbled with other mediums, nothing really spoke to me, and I think it was that non-traditional approach that got me into sculpture. Sculpture, when I was growing up, I thought sculpture only meant bronze busts of dead famous guys. And I wasn't exposed to that. And what I love about sculpture is, to me, it's about the idea, and the material is what carries that idea for you. So it can be a lot of different things, and that's what I actually work a lot now with glass. And I didn't study glass when I was in art school, and I discovered it and started playing with it, and it's become this really interesting material for me, because I only use clear glass, so it's sort of like if you were drawing with charcoal. It's about it carrying the ideas for me. It needs to be transparent, because it's all about the ideas. So I think that, when you get something that's, you're trying to come across, you're trying to say, it's the material, you find what the material is, and then, and you don't limit yourself, you have to learn constantly. It's, what do they say, jack of all trades, master of none. That sometimes I feel like that. But I don't want to be a glass blower, I don't want to do a perfect vase, I'm just interested in the material. So I think if you allow yourself to play with materials, and anything is a go.
And I'll add to that only because I feel that as a scientist, that's something that always comes into my art making, the aspect of experimenting and allowing for you to experiment with different materials and different topics and different even just ideas, things that challenge your own ideology of this is how a painting should look like, or this is, what someone thinks a painting should look like. So I think that in one of the things that has really helped me marry both being a scientist and an artist is the idea that art making and science and finding solutions is a creative thought process. Both of them are heavily dependent on that idea of the creative thought process and allowing yourself to make these mistakes and experiments. And so with that, I would like to thank each one of our panelists, Sonia Romero, Carolyn Castano, Angelica Muro, and Vivianna Paredes. Thank you so much for taking time out of your extremely busy schedules. Please visit their websites, and Carolyn Castano has an exhibit right now at Walter Maceia's Gallery in Los Angeles. Angelica Muro is a professor at Cal State Monterey Bay and has like 5 classes that she's teaching or something like that. Sonia Romero is also an instructor at Plaza de la Raza in Los Angeles and runs her own business. And Vivianna Paredes, as she alluded, she's an artist, she's a mother, she's also out there with, how many shows are you in right now? Like 3? 3. So these are very accomplished artists that are creating a lot of work right now. Please support them. Please continue supporting Mesa College Gallery. Become friends on Facebook and Twitter. And you'll see my tweets on there. But continue supporting, let other people know about this exhibit. It's up until April 19th. Thursday nights, the gallery is open until 8 p.m., so it'll give some people opportunity to come and visit the gallery. So, Vivianna, yes?
I just want to say thank you, Nurvia. Alessandra. I think it's really important to acknowledge and to support our young Latina leaders and veteranas. And I love that all of you guys came out. I love that there was high school students there. And we got to continue supporting each other. So when you see other Latino art shows, please come and see it. And Nurvia is going to be a future leader, so keep your eye on her.
Thank you. Thank you for everybody.